Ever since the beginning of the series, China has been a staple of the Civilization video games. Mao Zedong appeared as China's first ever leader. The overseer of China's Great Leap Forward held the leadership role for China through Civs 1 through 4, until Civ 4 added Qin Shi Huang as an alternate leader option. In Civ 5, Wu Zetian, who appeared as the female persona in Civ 2 but as Wu Zhao, returned as leader of China in Civ 5. In Civ 6, China, once all of the expansions rolled in, had 4 different leaders including Qin Shi Huang, who even has 2 separate personas, Wu Zetian, Kublai Khan, as well as Yonglei. Each leader has their own unique way of using the Crouching Tiger and the Great Wall improvement to lead China in Civ 6. Although leaders in Civs are uncoupled in Civ 7, China still has leader representation through Confucius. Few civilizations in the Civ series have been as thoroughly fleshed out as China, and it's no surprise as to why. China is the 3rd largest country by land area and the 2nd largest country by population. Even outside the present-day country of China, Chinese culture has spread to almost every small corner of every country on Earth. You can go almost anywhere and run into some measure of a Chinese diaspora. If you're hard up for spring rolls and egg fried rice, fear not. There's probably a Chinese restaurant operating near you. Welcome to Beyond Civilization Stories, where we explore the world beyond the lens of the world's most addictive video game. After the Rider in Civ 3, the Choco Nu, the Chinese repeating crossbow that was used in battle in the Far East in the early part of the first millennia, became the preferred unique unit of China in Civs 4 and 5. As the inventors of gunpowder, developers of Civ 6 gave China the Crouching Tiger as its unique unit. The Choco Nu made a return in Civ 7 as the unique unit for the Han Dynasty, which stands in for China in the Antiquity Age. For the Ming, China's Exploration Age representative, the Crouching Tiger has been replaced with a unique unit that is similar in its conception, the Zhun Lei Chong. The Qing, who represent China in the modern age, have the Gusa, which replaces the Lion Infantry. None of China's unique units in any Civ game have ever sparked awe or terror, but that's never been what China is about when playing Civ. China tends to have a playstyle that revolves around culture, specifically around wonder building. As many as 9 wonders that have appeared in the Civilization series have their genesis within China. They include the Great Wall, which appeared as a wonder in OG Civ and remained a major wonder all the way up to Civ 5. It was so overpowered as a wonder for a long time, and each new Civ game kept nerfing it to the point where, by Civ 6, it became nothing more than a mid-tier unique tile improvement. It has continued on in Civ 7 as a unique infrastructure for both antiquity and exploration versions of China, offering mostly cultural buffs. Sun Tzu's War Academy, or Art of War, was a wonder for Civs 1 through 3. In Civ 3, this wonder placed a barracks in every city. I haven't played Civ 3 in maybe 20 plus years, but that sounds OP to me. Since Civ 3, the character of Sun Tzu has been reduced to great person status and does not appear in Civ 7 at all. The Three Gorges Dam, built along the Yangtze River, replaced the Hoover Dam as the great electrical power station wonder in Civ 4. The Forbidden Palace, located in Beijing, made its debut as a wonder in Civ 5 and continues to be a major wonder through Civs 6 and 7. The extra wildcard policy slot that it offered in Civ 6 made it one of the most coveted wonders in the entire game. The Porcelain Tower of Nanjing made a brief appearance as a wonder in Civ 5. It spawned a great scientist and gave buffs to research agreements. Potala Palace, located in the province of Tibet, appeared as a major wonder in Civ 6 and gave players an extra diplomatic policy slot in their government, making it a very strong and highly coveted wonder. The Terracotta Army, located just outside of Xi'an, like the Forbidden Palace, first appeared as a major wonder in Civ 5 and has stuck around as a major wonder ever since. In Civ 5, it created a copy of every single military unit you possessed, allowing players to, effectively, double the size of their army once built. Since then, its power has waned. By Civ 7, it's become a wonder built for nothing more really than prestige. Weiyang Palace, also located near Xi'an, and Chengde Mountain Resort, located about 100 kilometers north of the Great Wall, have been added to Civ 7 as wonders for the first time. In this player's limited experience with them, their effects are not exactly game-breaking and, again, are wonders built mostly for prestige, than any advantage they might offer when playing. As far as natural wonders from China that have appeared in the Civ series, the first was Mount Kailash, located in Tibet on the western fringes of the Himalayas, which appeared in Civ 5. Although there are numerous rainbow mountains spread around the world, Zhangye Danxia, hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, located south of the Mongolian border along the road from Xi'an to Urumqi, is the representative in Civ 6. Anyone who has checked out my video on the most impactful natural wonders in Civ 6 will note that it is one of my favorite and one of the most powerful wonders in the whole game. Finally, Zhangjiaji, located in central China's Hunan province, appears as a natural wonder in Civ 7. Over the years, Zhangjiaji has developed the reputation as one of China's premier tourist destinations. The area is huge. We visited for 2 days and saw the famous glass bridge, but the area's most notable feature is Wuling Yuan, whose dramatic quartzite sandstone pillars inspired the floating mountains in the film Avatar, directed by James Cameron. But what is China like today? As someone who grew up in Canada, most of what I know about China came from this episode of The Office back in 2010.
I want you all to imagine a world in which America is not the #1 superpower, where forks are irrelevant. Did you know that in China, there are 56 cities with over 1 million people? You know how many we have here? 9.
Actually, that's not true. Michael, China is agrarian. Urbanizing fast? You betcha. But still agrarian.
China has a new missile that can sink a U.S. naval carrier 900 miles off the coast.
We have missiles too.
China has been loaning us billions upon billions of dollars. We are going to be owing them for the rest of our lives. Manufacturing in China has risen by 17%, and in the US, it has only risen by 8%.
Do you really think that manufacturing is a relevant indicator of where the world economy is heading in 2011?
Now, before I go afoul of YouTube's copyright protocols, I recommend just watching the full episode. It's great for a lot of reasons. But in short, that episode sums up a lot of the thinking around China that I think most Westerners receive through conventional media. Put in its absolutely most simple, if stereotypical terms, China has lagged behind the West economically, but is modernizing rapidly and is set to overtake the economies of the G7. If I'm reading the North American news correctly, even today the perception of China is that Western economies remain comparatively stronger. After traveling north from Laos by train to the city of Kunming, my girlfriend and I spent a month traveling through China. We traveled through Sichuan to Hunan, into Hubei, and over to Xi'an, and eventually up to Beijing. Altogether, we made 10 stops and tried to see as much as we could without upsetting the balance of our nomadic lifestyles. But obviously, there's a reason why I transitioned from publishing one video per week to publishing only every other week. As I mentioned, we visited the glass bridge at Zhangjiaji, as well as the Panda Park in Chengdu, the famous riverside Hongyangdong folk city of Chongqing, the Terracotta Warriors, and Qin Shi Huang's mausoleum outside of Xi'an, as well as the Great Wall, and a whole bunch of other stuff. First, just about the Great Wall. I realize that it is a major tourist site and has been for decades, if not centuries. You hear stories about it, you see pictures of it, but honestly, nothing could prepare me for the awe I felt upon actually seeing it. I visited a ton of major tourist sites that appear in Civ, from the pyramids and Vinicunca to Victoria Falls and the Galapagos Islands. Visiting the Great Wall left me with an impression that will last a lifetime as one of the most sublime bucket list sites. It's honestly difficult to put into words that would do justice to how it felt to stand upon those old stones and stare out into the landscape that surrounds it. We even stayed 2 nights at the nearby Gubei water town, which isn't so much a town as it is a medieval tourist village. Just entering the village has its own fee, but it is gorgeous. Besides visiting major cities and transport hubs like Beijing, Xi'an, and Chengdu, we also tried to visit smaller, less visited places. That's how we ended up in places like Fenghuang Gucheng, Shangluo, and Pingyao. Naturally, I did my research and tried to have us visiting places that were along our route northeast toward Beijing and that might be of interest to us. But everywhere we stopped, even in major cities right in the heart of China, was able to offer us something interesting. I'm going to spoil it right now. China blew my mind. I'm not really counting, but I've visited something like 80 countries or so, spread over every continent. China is quite possibly the most advanced, safest, tourist-friendly place I have ever visited. Now, before you run away with that idea, there are a few key caveats. So let's look at the challenging parts. First, yes, China does exist behind a great firewall. which, by the way, does apparently exist as a Great Wonder in Civ 5, though not specifically associated with China. But moving on. As someone who works online, this does mean I face some challenges. It meant that even though every hotel offers good Wi-Fi, you can't really use it since they'll only be able to access Chinese sites. VPN, you might think. No. I typically have 4 or 5 different VPNs and none of them worked. The Chinese online booking agency, Trip.com, offers phone cards that come with their own built-in VPNs and that allow visitors to connect to the web via Japan, Hong Kong, or Singapore. It meant that we ran everything off of our phones. In the end, it meant that internet usage compared to other places we traveled was quite expensive. I deal mostly in video, so those are some large files with my computer tethered to my phone that I need to send and receive. But it is doable. Second, Visa, MasterCard, and other conventional banking cards will not work as a means to pay for things outside of some major hotels in big cities. Visitors to China need to become accustomed to using Alipay or WeChat to pay for things. It's daunting at first to understand exactly how money is moving from your cards to WeChat and onto the vendors, but it all works. And once you get the hang of it, you realize that it is kind of the future of how to pay for things. And I think the QR code method of payment is slowly integrating itself into North America and Europe as we speak. But if you can, try to make sure that you set up your phone to use those apps before you go. China is also becoming expensive relative to other countries in the region, but this also brings me back to how rapidly China has modernized. First, its rail network. For decades, Europe, Switzerland specifically, has taken the plaudits for the most comprehensive and reliable rail network in the world. I was impressed with Russia's rail system during my visits, especially when you consider how vast the country is, but nothing could prepare me for China. High-speed trains travel over 300 kilometers per hour and can get you anywhere, whenever. The high-speed trains are a bit pricey, but when you consider how far you're going, you realize that they are actually great value compared to many other rail networks, and getting places is often just the cost of doing business. You can also have food delivered to your seat at any stop along the way using apps like Alipay. As mentioned in that office clip, China is now home to multiple sprawling major metropolises. Kunming, a city of around, 14 million people, was our first destination. I'd never really heard of it before we went. I just knew that that's where the train from Laos ended. I was keen to get to Chengdu, but was like, okay, I guess we have to stay in Kunming for a couple of days, thinking it would be, a throwaway destination. We were pleasantly surprised, to say the least. We arrived in early spring and the weather was gorgeous. The city is so clean. All of the cars are electric, so there's no traffic noise. No traffic noise. The highways that run through the city are virtually silent. There's a canal that runs through the middle of downtown and you can hear birds chirping. There's no low rumble from buses and traffic congestion. It's beautiful, but almost eerie. The parks that lie on the edge of the city are also beautiful and accessible by the city's extensive and affordable metro system. The parks inside the city are also quaint, well-maintained, and popular places to spend a day. The high-rises look brand new and state-of-the-art. The city center at night is awash with shining lights. I remarked to Zhenya that China is somehow more Japan than Japan. We thought to ourselves that maybe this was just Kunming and not necessarily all of China. But no, that's just how China seems to be now in 2026. There are definitely older cities with high-rises that might be, 30 or 40 years old, but many of the downtown city centers that we stayed in felt vibrant and energetic with a strong sense of urban life. Don't get me wrong, China is a country of more than 1 billion people. I don't kid myself into thinking that much of it isn't still agrarian and that there are whole cities of factories where people work long hours for small wages. But I can assure you that all the trappings that you might expect from modern Western culture exist here, and it's not difficult to get the sense that China and its people at times might be doing it all a little bit better. For the most part, we found Chinese people incredibly friendly, especially in less touristy cities where white faces such as ours were uncommon. Most of the time, when we looked stupid, struggling to be understood, folks giggled and were very understanding and rarely became frustrated. But I do recommend having a translation app at the ready, as many Chinese folks speak little to no English, and probably even less of any other foreign language, especially the farther away you get from China. At one point in a small town, we walked past a ping pong club underneath a bridge in one of the town's central parks. When the locals noticed us taking pictures, they invited me to come play. I'm not much of a ping pong player, but how could I turn that down? I got my ass handed to me, but it was a hilariously fun experience. When we ate out at restaurants, again, in the smaller towns, the chefs would often come from the kitchen to smile at us so we could smile back, and then we'd have our picture taken. Speaking of food, I love Chinese food. I find little in this life more satisfying than gooey noodles smothered in garlic, chilies, and spicy oils. Dan Dan noodles is a particular daily favorite that you can buy for just a few bucks in most towns. Zhenya went cuckoo for braised eggplant, and we sampled it in just about every town. Whether it was crispy or braised pork, it's delicious. There's a million varieties of fried rice, and oh my god, hot pot. Hot pot is becoming an emerging trend here in Vancouver, and Jenny and I have been having hot pots everywhere we can. But in China, they're everywhere and always delicious. Beer, which I never imagined China to have a knack for, is some of the best I've ever had. For those expecting hoppy, experimental craft beer with a high alcohol content, you're going to be disappointed. But as someone who doesn't drink much these days, I found just about all the local beers to be light and refreshing. Zhenya treated me to a tea ceremony in Beijing, which was a particular highlight. China even has a franchise of tea stores called Chaggy. Don't be surprised if you see Chaggy leapfrogging the Pacific and appearing in cities in California within the next decade. I expected way more in the way of street food, but mostly everything in China is small local restaurants. But there are fancy places too, though mostly only in major cities. Somehow the Chinese have a knack of making just about anything taste delicious, which comes with a warning. Be careful, because you never know exactly what you could end up eating just from pointing to the symbols on a menu. Anyway, I could go on about China, but needless to say, our visit was transformative. Not just because we had so much fun, but because in some way the whole experience subverted our expectation. Because of the bureaucratic hurdles often involved in visiting, I had been reluctant to visit for a lot of years. China definitely takes a little more careful planning than a lot of other places, but I think the rewards outweigh the potential frustrations, and I think anyone who visits China is going to be pleasantly surprised. What about you? Have you been to China? Seen any of those great wonders that appear in Civ? Let me know in the comments, and make sure to support the channel with a like or a dislike, and subscribe if you haven't already. Anyway, that's all for today. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Beyond Civilization. Thanks for watching, and remember to occasionally stop playing and make your own story, your own amazing path through history, and I'll see you next time.